Hi folks, come on back in, come on back in, come on back in. We are having a technical nightmare this evening. We don't know what's going on. Thank you to all these loyal followers who keep coming back in while we're dealing with this horrendous...
Roberto, let's get him in. Roberto's having an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, I think we know the weak technological link in the chain.
What is it?
Me, I think.
Oh no!
Thomas,
Can
are
you
you there?
can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. It's just really bad reception.
Is this better now?
No, no, it's not.
Ah,
I've turned off all of the other parasitic
yeah.
machine sucking bastards all around except for the phone. So what else
They
can we do?
they do drain. They drain so much. Like every other. It also as well. It depends how many people are using it in the area. This time of night in the UK, there'll be so many people on the Wi-Fi, so it drains the.
Yeah, but I suppose that means we can't really do this, man. But sure, what's the point? Like, people have to tune in and then listen to us feathering about for fucking,
Yeah.
for like 4 or 5 minutes. Nobody wants that, man.
How
Nobody in the
how's
world.
is this still a really bad delay? Yes.
Uh, I think everyone's gone, man. Is there? Oh no, it's
No,
just
no,
like,
we still have nearly 900 to 1,000 people still hanging
oh
around.
right. Oh,
They
sorry.
keep popping up and down.
This is my instardation, right? I don't understand all of the scary little symbols that if you press them, like Indiana Jones, something might fall from the ceiling and crush you.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Okay, well, look, let's do our best here,
Mm.
and
Do you know what?
um,
Actually, there was someone was telling me about a TED talk with Joseph Gordon-Levitt,
oh
and he's
yeah,
talking about social media as not really a platform which rewards uh, creativity or rewards a sense of achievement or rewards any of those things. The main reward trigger of Instagram is attention. It's essentially
yes,
virtual love and attention. Whereas we have to quarrel with that, don't we? We have to jostle with that a little bit because we have to come on and try and build a bit of a platform for all of the interesting chats that we're going to have with people who, essentially have dedicated their lives to things and have
yeah,
discovered secrets that have been gone for fucking thousands of years. So that's how it's kind of, I struggle with that. And then I resent Instagram and just technology in general, when I come onto Instagram and then have to do all the figuring out with the fucking
with the
technical fucking
tech.
difficulties as per usual.
It's very, yeah, I see what you're saying, because the thing is that what is important, because yes, absolutely, that what it needs to create attention, but what we're trying to do is create attention for a positive outcome. The worst kind of Instagram is when it's attention that is mindless,
Yeah.
gratuitous, and not really actually for any real purpose. Whereas if I
Other
think
than
bring
the fanning of the flames of an ego.
of an ego, yeah. When I think
And
when it's
that's,
attention to good
that's
stuff,
yeah, absolutely. You have to utilize it, I suppose. But it's hard for, like I suppose, like my part in all this, I suppose, will be the journey of meditation I'm bringing somewhat to the table. It's been about 3 years. But what it is, it's sort of over the initial hump of like, oh, there's nothing happening, right?
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
so it's shifted my perspective on life and whatever else. But it's that thing of when I go on Instagram or Twitter and there's the big mad furore and the melee and there's the stats and the numbers.
Mm.
I can feel my ego because I've made a distinction between the flavors of different forces going on.
Yeah.
So I can distinguish very clearly that is, it's really, really fanning my ego in a way that, frankly, it doesn't deserve, or it doesn't need.
That's interesting.
You know, egos they're sort of like cowards because they're not really substantial. So they try to keep everything else under a kind of a grip of fear, so that you know, or fear, or I'm specialer, or I'm not as special. There's essentially the two modes that the ego try and put you into. Yeah. And it's just that thing of like, I resent the kind of low emotional trigger points that these platforms feel the need to exist, in order to attract the most of us.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like you switch on the light to catch the bugs. You know, it's that, you know, it just seems, it seems like it plays a part in actively lowering the vibration of humanity.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Like a lot of them newspapers that you walk into a news agent's in a perfectly good mood, and then you look down at the side table and there's 15 headlines telling you how Iran is about to spontaneously combust.
Yeah.
And that means that everyone that you've ever loved is going to liquidize. And also there's a prize draw. So get the newspaper. Ah! Like, which do I prioritize?
Yeah.
Is it the dissolving children in Iran or the Wheel of Fortune? I don't know, because you've given it the same amount of column inches.
Yeah.
You know, and you're sort of constantly bombarded with imagery, which has been really very neuro-linguistically designed.
Yeah.
In order for your ego to maintain a grip on your existence, when really all it is an overused chatterbox. Do you know what I mean? It's a motivational tool, which is very useful. But it's
and I think that's the thing, is that there is an absolutely toxic element to media, social media, news in general, that overconsumption, like it's like anything, any kind of addiction, right, can cause a serious problem. I think if there is an ego issue, like for instance, here's a great example of this, right? When Umbrella Academy came out, there was a shit ton of like loads of people fucking hated Luther, right? Do you remember that? Like everyone hated him because like of decisions he made in the show, and everyone was like, I hate this guy. And I was getting like, what was interesting, it was the first time that I hadn't been, there was my ego got hit because I was taking the personal hit of the character.
Yeah, and it's hard not to, because it's being delivered to you in such an egoic parcel.
Well, it's at me. It's like
media.
People saying, I hate you. I hate, like, and I was like, oh my God.
And you're so lovely and saint-like, Tom. You really are, because you know, I don't mean it. I honestly, for once, mean it not sarcastically. I mean it genuinely, where you never ever made a huge thing of that. I mean, it was a thing about the writing, I think, where Luther had the really, really difficult decisions to make, and then made him sternly, and then suddenly, you know, I think it was a as well, because people were so emotionally invested that they needed to grieve, they needed to vent their frustration.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's it. And I think I understood that. And I think Laura, my wife at the time, was like, you know, it's not you, right? And I was like, yeah. I said, you know, when it's the first, because that, like I say, is the first time that had ever happened on any kind of social media that I was receiving what I would consider like abuse. And I ended up coming off Twitter. Like, I just was like, I'm getting rid of it, because but it became a point where I just didn't want to look on social media anymore, because it was, every time I looked on, I was like, oh, it was just something that was
big crap,
kind of abusive towards Luther or towards the character. And I just was like, you know what? I don't need to see this stuff.
Of course you don't, and you don't. Nobody does.
No.
And you know, my friend told me a great piece of advice. My friend, who's going to come on at 9:30 London time, 1:30 LA Pacific time, to do a poem about the Earth. He's my poem filmmaker friend, Ari. And he's been doing poems on his page, Ari Gold. What were we talking about before?
We're talking about listening.
Oh yeah, that he said to me. He said about reviews.
Yeah.
He said if you believe the good stuff, you'll
go
believe the bad.
Yeah, I stopped watching or reading any reviews a long time ago because I just don't find them helpful.
They don't ultimately help.
No, I just find them
if they're all good. It's still a bit of a losing situation. You're carrying that shit on stage.
Yeah,
it's a losing thing. I mean, it's best just to ignore on the phone.
But it is.
Give me a break. Give me a break, phone, please.
But the ego thing is like, if you look at that across the board.
Yeah. Oh, Tom, I'm really sorry. I'm really, really sorry. I'm trying to charge it and stand it up. Yeah, I'm just trying to stand you and charge you simultaneously, and of course, it's not like Instagram could sense my phone being upside down, and then perhaps just like every other piece of technology does. I'm such a tit. I'm sorry, Tom. Go on, but you were talking about ego in sport.
Anyone who's in the limelight or has like a following, and it's like the Caroline Flack thing that happened over here, and I think there's this kind of barrier.
Yeah, that was unpleasant.
You know, like the barrier that occurs that people can just say what they like. My buddy Sam Hewen is experiencing a lot of this sort of stuff at the minute, and it's like family have had like death threats and stuff. Like it's shocking stuff, and it's people that are.
Why? What's he?
What
are people angry at him about?
I actually don't know the ins and outs of it.
Who's Sam Hewen?
Sam Hewen is the lead guy in Outlander.
Oh right, yeah.
I did a movie with Sam.
He's an actor on television.
He's on exactly like he's an actor who plays a character on television.
It's rampant levels of shame, and John Ronson wrote very interestingly about this in his book. So You've Been Publicly Shamed, where it just talks about shame that with a face and shame without, because there were instances of public shaming in America where the judge gave the person a really elaborate melodramatic sentence, so they had to kind of walk around with a big sign on their front saying, I killed 2 people in my car on this road because of alcohol, and it might be you, so don't drink and drive. And like, I mean, at least that had comic time.
It's the absolute despair.
But
we can promise you that the Earth podcast isn't this unstable.
Yeah. It's shot really nice, actually. We've been looking at some edits. It's shot really nice on the non-Zoom chat side.
Oh yeah, it looks really great.
But anyway, sorry, to finish that shame thing, Tom.
Yeah.
The guy who was shamed, the fella who was convicted, said that it was a very, very meaningful thing that happened in his life, because people, when the shame had a face, they walked right up to him. They gave him, sorry, it's in my hand. They gave him empathy and compassion because they realized that he was wearing a sign by a car park, like he's already at a very low point. So it struck a very compassionate chord in people, whereas shaming online, it has no face. And so ultimately people just avalanche, this kind of toxic bilious bullshit at people.
Yeah.
But it's sort of weirdly cultural now, like there's standing and then there's the opposite of standing. But I don't know what that's called.
It's the opposite,
and that's where people just go to town on someone.
Relentlessly, like hammer someone, yeah. I mean, there's this guy I follow, right? A guy called Thomas DeLauer, right? He's a fitness science expert, right? He knows his stuff. He really knows his stuff when it comes to. So if you want to know anything about health and fitness, he's actually very good. But he put out a video recently, a very honest, open video about how he's been getting so many people constantly commenting on his weight and going, "Oh, he looks skinny. Oh, he looks like he's lost his muscle. Oh, he looks like he looks like he's bigger than he normally is." And constantly, I mean, in a way, you kind of say, well, you put yourself out there as that. Like, I post things with my shirt off and things, so I'm putting myself out open for criticism and all that stuff.
You post pictures of yourself with your shirt off through your neighbours' letterboxes, which is a strange habit. Folks.
It's a strange pastime, but, what I've become to enjoy.
Yeah, every year the neighbours get a calendar.
Take particular notice of the month of May. I think you'll enjoy. But yeah, but those people who they like sit there on their phones, you know, probably just like not very much themselves. They're just going, "Oh, he looks shit," you know. And it's like they have that luxury of just being able to sit back and not have a face to it. They get, but actually, what it's doing to the person on the other end, they have no comprehension of. I think,
and that's what's interesting about it having a sort of a cultural, sort of taking on almost like a cultural fad.
Totally,
element, because the cultural element to it apologizes for it, you know, to some degree, because it says, nah, it's not personal. We're all just doing this thing, you know. Yeah, but it's not about
also, as well, I think there's an element of, well, you know, you're in the limelight, you've got the following, so you come to expect it. You know, you should just deal with it. So they can sit on the other side of it, and I mean, it's actually.
Go on. Sorry.
No, go on.
John Ronson was. I'm just ripping off his book. Go get his book. So You've Been Publicly Shamed, John Ronson. But he said it was that thing of. Just what you were saying, fucking people just essentially losing the will to live entirely because they feel so completely stricken from the herd. Do you know what I mean? They're so completely just removed, at a remove suddenly from everything, and then it's like
there's actually someone, like Laura was saying this, that there's something that happened during lockdown. I think because people have gone more into their phones and gone more internal, and that can be a very negative thing, is that shaming on social media and trolling has gone through the roof. Like, it's gone trolling. 10 times. Yeah, it's gone 10 times worse than it ever was before. Everyone's like, "What's with all like the hatred going on?"
It's like interesting because in the material world, that would amount to a band of roving twats with flames and torches and pitchforks, just going around and saying mean things to people.
Yeah, but that's what it is, right? It's mob mentality, and
it's mob mentality. Yeah,
and it just shows what I think this lockdown can do to people. So first and foremost, everyone who sent a question, thank you very much, because
we've collated them. So we've collated them.
So one of the most common questions that came up was, how are we dealing with anxiety and stress? How do we deal with anxiety and stress, in particular during lockdown? That was one of the ones that came up the most. And I think one of the things that I found out the other day, because Laura told me, because I'm doing loads of different extracurricular stuff at the minute, like I'm writing my book, we're doing the podcast, we're doing all these things that require my time. And obviously I've got family and stuff, right? So I need to spread that time around. And what was happening, I was constantly in my phone, and then I'd be trying to go to the kids, and then I'd be going back to my phone. And I became like overwhelmed. I was at the point where I was like, oh my God, I just couldn't deal with it. And Laura was like, right, you need to compartmentalize all of these things. Yeah. So what we did is I decided to assign 1 hour to writing my book. I'd be like, right, this is book time. I'd put my phone away and just write my book. And then in between the next hour I was going to do some work. I just play with the kids, put the phone down, just play with the kids, because I knew I had another hour to do the work.
I suppose that kind of I mean, if it works for you, great. But I found that my kind of body, mind, and spirit, whatever you want to call it, tells me when I want to write, sort of, which tends to be around sort of 4-ish, 5-ish in the afternoon, and then sometimes
that's interesting.
Right through till the next morning if you're on a.
Well, I suppose it depends on from like, because your book is like short stories, right?
Yeah.
So I think because my book is about, you know, trying to help people find a healthier way of living. So sometimes when I'll be in conversation with Laura, like we were talking about this, like when you're talking and riffing something, so what I've started to do is take a note and just go, oh, I need to write about that and write about that, and then put it down. And then so when I come to do my hour of solid writing, I've got a bunch of notes lined up to like hammer out a bunch of different things. But
do you know what? Big ups to the Microsoft Word. And I know those guys have been struggling lately, so they need our promo. But
we say this as we're both working on iPhones and Macs.
Yeah, smashed iPhones.
Yeah.
Smashed
it won't stand
iPhones.
upright with a charger.
But the old Microsoft Word is great for writing, Tom.
It is, yeah.
Only because you can have your story, chapter, whatever, and then you just link comments all down the margin. So you essentially just get to play and scrap around and write whatever bullshit comes into your head.
Yeah, that's great.
You know,
so I use the
flock of
Pages.
flamingos.
Yeah, that's great. I should get Word for Mac, because I think it'd be better to do that, because I'm using Pages, which is good because you get like a book template that you can like obviously work it through.
So tell us, Tom, you were saying you were in the middle of your days. You've been keeping them chronically full, may I say?
Yes.
Oh, use of language now.
Oi, very good. Like that one. But yeah, so what I started doing was realizing that rather than it being like sporadically spread out and always being drawn back to the phone sporadically, I would go back to my phone and so when Trudy has a nap, it's a little bit easier for Laura to deal with just one child, right? So I'll go while Trudy has a nap and have another hour where I go through all my emails, all my WhatsApp, all my Instagram messages, and just get through everything and answer them all in an hour. Then it's done. And I play with the kids and have all that time, family time, for the rest of the day, and then have another check in the evening. So I just found it a really good way to lower my stress levels of being overwhelmed. Like now I feel so good because my days, I'm not usually someone who needs like structure, but I found that it gave my day way more structure. I would say to anyone who is feeling like stressed, I mean, that's where my stress comes from, is all different work stuff. So that's my way. But like
with Tom, with the lack of structure thing, or with the structure thing, you know, careful about. I'm often wary about trying to regiment things like as far-ranging as writing a book to childcare to sorting out admin for this, and like human brains, I just don't think they work that way. I think they vary,
right? I think everyone's different.
Yeah, it's true, but you're right. But I think getting meaning from the regiment itself means that ultimately the regiment is finite, and it's gonna the wheels are gonna come off it to some degree or another, and perhaps it's good to kind of be mindful of the regiment not becoming a little bit of an oppressor, a little internal oppressor.
I think it's a balance, right? Because I think all it was for me was not being drawn to my phone all the time. It was a tool that, so I'm certainly not like, this is my time, I've got to do it there, you know, it was more, I know that I have an allotted time that I can get everything done. Then I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the day. I'm not being drawn back to my phone. And I think that's a positive thing.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. You know, I think like the avalanche of WhatsApp and Instagram and all that other business it's too taxing. You know, I mean, we're diving headfirst into this podcast. It's
Yeah.
going to be an interesting experience, but I'm going to maintain. I think not allow the podcast to sort of have to bring me closer to having to do my phone all day long, really, because ultimately I think I can achieve the same thing without having to go back and recheck every 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
Things tend to roll on, and their significances diminish as sort of time drifts by, and you think, oh, you know, one of the ways it's interesting because we are such different creatures in many ways, because during the lockdown, around the times that I'm trying to be creative, like Tom, to sit down and that does take some self-will.
Yeah.
I think a lot of sometimes the negative automatic stuff in my head comes from just needing to sit down and write, but not sitting down and writing, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
one of the ways I fix that is sitting down and writing and going into it and going, listen, if I write 100 words, I write 100 words. And even if I write 10 more, sure, isn't that great? And then if you sort of basically delude yourself into sitting down, a bit like going to the gym, ultimately I know that I will get completely absorbed into it. It's just the act of, it's just that little deception that has to take place in order for me to sit down. So there's being creative, and then just kind of not being in a rush and making a mindful practice of not switching off the negative automatic thinking, noticing the negative automatic thinking, just automatic thinking, you know, because you know, in the pre-conscious mind, that's essentially the memory, and you can reminisce and daydream as you walk around the house, as you touch objects that remind you of certain things, and that's a very comfortable, pleasant space to be in. Whereas or you could be walking around the space, you know, thinking about the 60 emails that has to be done, and ultimately that illusory concept that you've created in the moment of I'm making a cup of tea diminishes your joy of making the cup of tea. And you can't be in two places.
Yeah,
you
that's
can't
true.
be in two places at once. So you have to learn. Well, I feel I have to learn how to turn down the voice, and it's not easy done. It's a lifetime's condition. It's not easy done. I mean, but it's like the gym. It's like anything. It's just tipping away all the time, increments.
It is. Yeah,
and
it is.
The longer you stay at it, the less the penguins jabber inside your brain box.
Yeah, that's
and
it.
The more,
I was going to say, it's that it is creating a new, because for me, writing a book and doing all these other things is like a new thing. So I had to, it becomes overwhelming because I've allowed it to be this thing that I'm like, oh, I've just got to get inside. I've got to get into it with all these other bits that I'd normally be dealing with, and I can't. So I have to figure out a way to be able to enjoy it. Otherwise, it's the same thing we always say. It's like, if you don't enjoy the journey,
if you don't enjoy it, doing it, you know, and part of your charm, Thomas Hopper, is throwing yourself into a good idea. I think, you know, you get a shot to the gut, and away you go. You have a good idea and you jump at it. And I think that's because you have a really good dialed in regime, and I think you know that you have sort of energy ad infinitum. So you're gonna steamroll, baby.
Great use of the word.
Thanks very much. But I think I'm to some degree like that. I think I'm changing
you are.
a bit like that, you know. But
I think you are, because I think it's like you writing your short. I always find it very, like, I was very inspired when you told me about your book deal, when you got your book is being published. So I was like, man, that's amazing. Like, that's no easy feat to get a book published. That's huge. And
do you know what? I'll give you for the crack, right? I was working there on one called Scab. Hang on now. You know.
You're going to give us an excerpt?
I'll give you 2 sentences, right? Actually, I'll give you a couple of sentences off the top of Scab. Out the front of the monkey garage, I tore this scab off my leg for the pain it would cause me, but then instantly resented the future itch it would cause me, because that would mean the pain was drawing to its end. Funny, I hadn't cut myself before, I think. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh my God.
So
Oh,
basically,
no,
that's
And how-
what I've been doing to relieve my stress, is to think about scabs.
my book includes scabs as well. Lots of scabs. More emotional
Scabs
ones.
everywhere.
More emotional.
In fact, the whole cover is going to be a giant scab.
It's one big scab.
A real scab, mind. Dried. Hung and dried. Imagine, that'd be really mad, wouldn't it? If you could...
Right.
If you could make, there's just not scabs big enough, and I know because I've Googled this online and found.
Oh yeah.
I only found like one video of this skateboarder kid who'd fallen quite badly, and there was a huge scab on his arm, and it was him picking off the scab,
Oh.
and it was massive, but it wasn't big enough to be a book page.
What? Couldn't screenshot it. You couldn't screenshot it. It wouldn't be high enough res.
Damn it! I doubt the lad kept it for posterity.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads us into another question, because the whole anxiety thing and like the book thing is one of the other things was like, how do we stay? And the question that came up a lot on the feed was, how do we get motivated? How do we stay motivated to?
That's a hard one, Tom. That's
That
a
is.
hard one. I go through phases. You know, I'm sure you do as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We all, I mean, we're human, right? And I think the biggest thing for me is what is your driving factor? What is your desire? What is the thing that you want? Like, you have to have a goal at the end of the tunnel, right? So what do you want to achieve in life generally? If you're always like reminding yourself what those things are.
What if you're wanting to achieve just sort of oneness with the moment, like old Captain Jesus was going on about? You know, then I suppose ultimately the future doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You know?
So I think in that case, it's about.
But I suppose, yeah, I suppose for that, if we could sort of wanting it from the heart, you know what I mean? I think sort of figuring out where certain wants, desires, and longings and yearnings are sort of coming from, and I think choosing the right thing, I think, and being kind of.
So, sometimes it's hard to know what it is you know, like that's the thing with a lot of the stuff we're talking about on the podcast is, you know, to do with our mental state and how diet affects it, how stress affects it, how environmental factors affect it. And sometimes, some days you can feel a certain way and you can feel less motivated than the other day. And you just have no idea why. It's like, I just don't feel good today.
And, you know, that's a perfectly nourishing place, you know.
Yeah.
The other thing about, actually, there's a good thing about the writing for those of you, I mean, you know, those of you who are vaguely interested in the fact that I've been writing, but I make sure to if there's time off between the writing, be kind of absorbing stuff, be kind of, you know, be engaged, maybe listen to a podcast, or maybe watch a movie, or, you know, put your brain somewhere completely different.
Yeah.
And that is the most nourishing thing you can do to writing, actually. They call it, there's books on it, they call it feeding the subconscious, and apparently it amplifies the state of flow, which is the nice flow state you want to be getting into.
You know what I've gotten into recently is I have become obsessed with audiobooks, because audiobooks are just, I mean, for a start, you just smash through books because you can have them on when you're like, because we're doing the patio at the minute, right? So when Laura's got the kids in the house and whatnot, I'll be at work up at the top doing the patio with my brother-in-law, and both of us have got our headphones on listening to audio. Yeah, this is audio.
Latest one? What's the latest one?
The latest one actually is a future guest. So I've just listened to his most recent book, The Genius Life, a guy called Max Lugavere.
You're so diligent to this podcast.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm doing my research on all our guests, but Max, I'd sort of done a lot of research on before because I've been following on Instagram for a long time. But I read his most recent book, The Genius Life, which is great. So I'm reading now.
Genius
his,
what? Genius
the,
lie?
the Genius Life.
Life.
Life, yeah.
Crikey.
And now I'm reading his first book, which is Genius Foods.
Right.
Which,
Genius Foods.
yeah, it's amazing because it's all about. And
I
it's a lot
just
to
see
do.
like a little bit of cereal doing some maths in your stomach. That's the image that jumped into my silly head. Genius
Yeah.
it's a bit quite of a highfalutin word, isn't it? For
It is,
food?
yeah. I mean, that's the thing is that I do wonder that in his choice of words, and especially like the Genius Life. But what is interesting about it is that the changes that he's telling people to make, or certainly like the education factor that he's giving people with these things to eat, it's groundbreaking science that is proving that you can actually prevent certain chronic illnesses in the future by making the choices now, the right choices now. And there's lots of foods that we just aren't accustomed to anymore. You know, like,
Interessant.
yeah, it's very good. So my book
Such a,
touches
go
a
on.
lot of
So
that sort of
what
stuff.
foods? What foods are we not
What
accustomed to anymore?
foods? Well, you know, so everything's become about grains, right? Like, so grains have been the most prominent, especially like, you know, like monocrops and stuff, right? So corn,
Cheerios,
soy, wheat,
cornflakes.
they're in everything.
Cheerios again.
So the
Shredded
food
wheat.
industry has
Yeah.
pushed us towards all of that stuff. Like it wants
Rice
us to
Krispies.
eat, like eat your corn and all that stuff. So
Do you know what? Thank God I had a growth spurt, Tom. I was a tiny fella
were you
until the age of like 15-ish, 15 and a half. I was still like one of the, I was like I think
short?
on par with another lad for the smallest lad in the year. But thank God all them corn pops and ricicles did the job.
Yeah, you were like a cow being fed the corn. You just got bulked up.
Yeah, exactly. Thank
But
God
that was
there
like
enough
me, man.
hormones in it.
I was like a proper, what would you would call skinny fat, probably for a long time.
Oh, so you were thin, but you weren't very fit or healthy in your
Yeah,
heart.
like and I smoked, and I was in a bad way.
I can't imagine you smoking
Yeah.
20 a day, viewers. 20 a day.
Yeah, this is a very
And
different Tom Hopper that turned the corner.
And he used to
Talk about it in the
spend
book.
most of the
It's all in the
afternoon.
book.
Yeah, he used to spend most of the afternoon in a bookmakers, and he'd go from the Weatherspoons that he worked in down the road up to the bookmakers at lunchtime, then lose all of his salary and go back. But you did work in a Weatherspoons, right?
I did, yeah. The
When you
Moon
was
and
in,
Stars in Penge, in southeast London.
In Penge.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't know Penge.
Yeah.
that well.
You don't need to. Unless it's like come on leaps and bounds since I last came there, but it's southeast London. But it was an interesting experience. But you know what I love about like having time in working in those places is like it's all great experience as an actor.
Oh, yeah,
you meet
man.
so many characters working in a pub. It's the best thing for an actor to work in a pub.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I was caning like I because when I did those long shifts at Weatherspoons, I would have like 3 meals sometimes in the day there, and I would have a chocolate cake after every meal.
And a pint of bitter.
A pint of Guinness and black actually. Like I mean,
Guinness
honestly,
and chocolate cake.
And I always used to wonder. I was like, why do I keep getting sick? Why do I keep getting like? Do you know what I mean? All these things that kept happening, and yeah,
like why not keep using this Band-Aid, this chocolate cake as a plaster, but it just gets more infected.
Stop it!
It just gets worse.
What's wrong with it?
Useful for anything. Yeah. Do you know what? There's a delightful Weatherspoons quite near me. It used to be an old cinema. Oh, it's glorious.
Is it? Some of them
it's
are
really, really beautiful.
Are amazing. I heard recently. I can't
It's
remember who
just a
told me
shame
this
that
now.
They are Weatherspoons.
But that every single carpet in every single Weatherspoons in the entire country is completely unique. Like they have them, they're made a unique carpet for every single Weatherspoons in the country.
Why?
No idea. Something that the owner wanted to do, apparently. But it's
So
quite
that-
it's specific to the name of the pub.
Oh, I
So like
get
the
ya.
so we
Yeah,
on
so
our carpet in the Moon and
crest,
Stars.
the crown.
Yeah.
Mm.
So in the Moon and Stars there was all this like kind of
Ah.
moons and moons and stars and stuff. 'Cause-
On the floor, how bamboozling. I wonder about the one at Heathrow Airport. I wonder what kind of shizzle they've got going on.
have they got one there? Have they? I don't know. Oh, they
Yeah,
have.
they
Yeah, I
have,
know
yeah,
exactly what
yeah,
you're talking
yeah.
about. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a funny one. But yeah, I did. It taught me a lot, and that's also where I made. So all those things that I did, like working in those kind of places and like really delving deep into a bad lifestyle, were all
Oh, yeah.
massive weight. It was like because my shift to health was lots and lots of little mind shift changes and lots of little wake up calls. That
I bet
eventually
you were
made,
like, I bet you were like Terry Jones in that Monty Python sketch where he's had a huge dinner, and he's the waiter comes over with a little chocolate mint, and he goes, "Now F off, I'm full."
yeah.
And then eventually he has the chocolate mint, and he explodes all over the restaurant. I'd
Oh,
imagine you came close to that a few times down in Penge.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big time. Along with breaking up a few fights along the way. Jeez.
This is conjecture completely, but it was a rumor I heard that the Weatherspoons got done because it wasn't beef in their beef burgers. Do you know what I'm saying? It was like some sort of Afghan pack animal called a zebu.
A zebu?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, actually, yeah, I've been to places before. My brother went to a flight. So my brother's a pilot, and he went to flight training in Europe, in Spain, in Jerez. And we used to go to this barbecue joint when I went to visit him, and they brought out these amazing like meat platters, and we always used to be like, "What meat is this?" And the Spanish people who worked there couldn't speak any English, and they couldn't tell us what it was. And we were like, "It doesn't taste like beef, but it's not like lamb either." Anyway,
They couldn't tell you. They could like. That's mad.
well, they would say that it was like beef, but we're like, it doesn't taste like beef. But anyway, we found out
This one's got whiskers.
And we found out a year after my brother left that place had been shut down because they were serving horse meat,
Aha!
and which is not legal.
Nope.
But it is in
Tell
some
them.
places apparently.
Like Camden. When I was
Like
25,
Camden.
I used to live in Camden in North London, and that was when the whole Tesco scandal broke. What was that? 7 years ago now. When
Yeah, what was that they were doing again?
Because like they was using horse meat and selling it as beef, but I don't think it was Tesco's fault. I think
No,
it was
the
their
yeah.
Irish meat supplier.
Of course they were Irish.
It's a bunch of wily Irish lads who are just like,
Hey, look, that one there. It looks like a cow. Just put it in the lorry. It looks like a cow.
I've
go on,
painted
now
all these
move.
horses. I've painted all these horses Frisian. No one will ever know.
It's got black and white spots in it. No one will get. Give it to them, Tesco.
Yeah, someone galloping the cow across the field.
Trying to milk the horse.
She's a great gourd, this Frisian dairy.
I tell you what now, she's got a hell of a bag on her. Just squeeze it.
God, this udder is more like a hose.
Someone just put, I don't understand how a horse is different from a cow.
Well,
Where have you been?
You haven't lived, my dear.
Yes.
Here, Tom.
Yes.
I can't see none of them comments coming up because my phone, as we've established, is a cave.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, we've answered a couple of the questions from the thing. Who's got some questions?
No, but I was going to say, it's 1:30 in LA, and my poet pal Ari is lining up to, I think, but he can't join the. Oh God, he can't join the Instagram call, can he?
No. What would
Ari? I tried. I'm learning. Wait,
Hi, Ari,
wait.
if you're here.
I'm getting different information. Yeah, Ari, request now, right? Or else the next time I see you, I'm gonna hit you with a damp Brillo pad. Yeah. So he can. So if Ari can't send a request through,
all he has to do is comment.
all right, Ari, do a comment. Stop being such a lazy bones.
Ari, you must comment. Oh, Ari Gold, there he is. Hang on.
Hey, look at that. The interweb works.
Hi,
It's like
live
the bloody
from-
postal service, but faster.
I can't add him. Why can't I add him? It won't let me add him.
Yeah.
What would have to happen to get him on is I would have to leave the Earthlocker one and you have to start a live on yours or come back onto the Earthlocker and have him separately to one of us.
Ari, we tried. Ari, type the poem. Type the poem and put it in the comments. Right?
Yeah, or text
Ari's
it to you.
My friend who's a lovely poet and a filmmaker, and on his page at Ari Gold, the real Ari Gold, I think is his page. Isn't that right, Tom? That's the one that's come
It says-
flashing up.
Ari Gold. Yeah.
Oh, just Ari Gold, right?
Yeah.
And he's been doing like
so.
a poem a day, I think, quite slightly more consistently than my involvement on our weekly live podcast. But he's been doing these lovely poems. So I said to him, let's come on to our Instagram chat about our podcast and do an Earth-themed poem for
I love
us.
that. I love it.
So, Ari, it's up to you now. You got to type that bitch.
You got to type. He's thinking, seriously? It would be brilliant. It will have literally just finished it, and then our 1 hour time slot will go boom.
Oh, yeah! It's going to ping off soon. Isn't it?
Yeah, we've not got. Well, this last one started. I'm not sure what time it started because we had a lot of faffing back and forth.
Oh, yeah, we did. We did plenty faffing. Don't worry, Ari.
Type away, sir.
Don't worry.
Type away.
Yeah, loosen those thumbs.
Get under the screen
Tom.
and hold him up.
Tom, you know what you never get in the Umbrella Academy?
Go on.
Close-ups like this.
No, they're all very wide, aren't they? Well, but what's hilarious is that they shoot them, these lenses that they use on Umbrella, they shoot them like there. So it's in your face. It's like here. This is how close the camera is. But on the shots, as you've seen, it's like this. Like
Yeah,
they're mad lenses.
They can see the kitchen sink around the corner.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
think
it's
you're not
mad.
in shot, you're goofing around the corner. You think you're not in shot.
Yeah.
No such luck.
And then you just get a very polite nod from Sean or the camera operator.
Yeah, one of the
Neville,
camera guys.
cinematographer.
Going,
Be like, you're in shot.
you're in.
Yeah.
You're in.
You're like, yeah, I know. That was all
You're like,
part of the
"What?"
experimental. Yeah, you're on your iPad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
But yeah, that's we've done some standard questions. If you've got any questions for us,
Yeah.
bring them up.
When Ari, when you do your poem, when you type your poem, my pal is going to screenshot it on the screen. Not me, really, but yeah, I'm still going to take credit for
Not
that.
just the hat rack.
Here, check this out, everyone, as well. My same pal who makes these really interesting EMF blockers for electromagnetic frequency coming
Now
off
these are great.
your technology all plugged into the mains. They give off some serious magnetic energy, but this fella stops it. And I've seen proof on a little magnetometer measuring thing. They're very clever little doohickey.
They
What's
are.
the thing? What's her thing? It's Walking with Gaia, spelled G-I-A. Check that out.
Yeah, they are. Someone said they've been intermittent fasting since last week. Doing 16/8 fasting for last week. Thanks for. Very good. Hope it's been working for you.
Oh my God. Good work.
Laura, right, my wife. She only drinks one night a week. She has a glass of wine every week when she does this family pub quiz. She walked in here behind here trying to be quiet, but dancing to herself. Probably looking like, but she gets a couple of bevies down her. She turns,
Yeah.
into a
Yeah,
party
a
chick.
couple of bevies,
Yeah.
a few quaaludes, and
Finding
she's
herself
buzzing.
hilarious. Yeah, she is. Finding herself hilarious.
Go on, girl.
Hardest role you've ever played, Rob? What's your hardest role you've ever played?
Probably Richard III because it was so terrifying and it was on stage. And
Oh my God, that is terrifying.
It was like there was about 750 people a night. It was very scary. Because the other thing about Richard is of course, is that you're kind of a stand-up comedian. You know, like you have to get them. You have to talk.
Yeah,
to them,
you got to
get
take them with you.
involved and,
Mm.
yeah, and you have to be like, shh. Like here comes the Duke.
Yeah.
Duke of Clarence or whatever.
Yeah, they're in on it
Get
with
them-
you.
Get them buzzing. It's tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you were like,
It's terrifying.
I bet you smashed that, man, because you're perfect for that.
Yeah, do you know what? Now I'm usually the eater of humble pie, but I did smash that.
Good. Rightly so.
I
You
did.
should have
I
done.
worked mental hard on it. I was working every hour God sent.
But that's the thing. I mean, I always think that someone like you, Rob, like there's what I love about your acting and your performing is that it appears effortless, right? It appears like you're
thanks,
just
man.
playing around. It appears like it's just kind of. Well, that's the beauty of it. It appears like he's just fucking around. But the amount of work, that I see you do to get your performances to the place that they get to, is commendable, because it doesn't that kind of performance for people listening here doesn't just happen very easily.
That's so sweet, man. I really appreciate that. High praise
No.
indeed. High praise.
No.
indeed.
Well, it needs to be said, because I think people don't see that.
Well, God bless you, sir. And I have been, I'm sure you have as well, been thoroughly avoiding cheeky screeners, of which we will say nothing for the risk of being assassinated. But I would say this: it's something else, man. It's mental.
Yeah.
It is mental. Now we may have a poem here by the deliciously revealing Ari Gold.
Has it come through?
Yes, it has. Are you
Oh,
ready?
marvelous! Let's hear it.
Are you on the edges of your seats? Gravity is the hand of our mother. The End by Ari Gold. It's pretty good, right?
He should publish that. Definitely get published.
Next stop, HarperCollins. No, but that was a beautiful sentence, Ariel. Beautiful sentence.
It is a very good sentence.
Very nice.
Of all
Very,
the
very nice.
sentences, it's a good one.
So, you'd go for a mom one, you perv. Here, right? I'll give you a little poem, right? I'll give you a little, let's see. Let's give you, maybe, perhaps, opened on a random page, everyone.
It could be anything.
A poem by Hayden Carruth called Sonnet. Well, she told me I had an aura. What? I said. An aura, she said. I heard you, I said, but you ain't significating. What I mean, you got this fuzzy light like all around your head, same as Nell, the epileptic, when she's nigh ready to have a fit. Only you ain't having no fit. Why, that's a fact, I said. And I ain't about to neither. I reckon it's more like that dead rotten fir stump by the edge of the swamp on misty nights, long about cucumber blossoming time when the foxfire's flickering around. I be goddamn if that's it, she said. Why, you ain't but 69, you ain't a rotting yet. What I say is you got a goddamn Nora. Okay, I said. Okay. Fucking hell, man. Poems when they're good, man.
I think I preferred Ari's.
Sorry, Hayden. That's fast. Oh yeah, Ari's being a money grabbing whore because he's telling me to tell all of you to go to swaylake.com. Me and Ari made a movie called The Song of Sway Lake. It's very lovely movie. Me and Rory.
Oh, you can go and buy the movie.
Yeah, you can go and rent it, or go watch a film of Ari on roller skates and nothing else on his website.
Ari just written, mine is better.
Yeah, you arrogant pig from California.
He smashed it. Any favourite moments you can share? Oh, we've many favourite moments we've got.
Do you know what came up once or twice actually on the old questions list?
Yeah.
Was skin regime, which I thought, that's a lovely compliment.
Yeah, skin regime is a popular one.
Oils. I'm into my oils, you know.
Yeah, oils is a good one.
Especially like after if you have a shower, a shower, especially a warmer shower to kind of dry you out a bit. Even, let alone wear it using soap. So
which oils do you use, Rob?
I tend to take a bit of the lovely Barbary argan oil. It's made by the Berbers in Morocco, handmade by the Berbers, but it's delicious. It's absolutely, you can eat it, you can slather yourself in it, and it's nutritious for my skin anyway. I'd lather, but then they say you should do a little bit of a rotation. So now I'm gonna take you down my Patrick Bateman road of oils.
I started the day with an exfoliating gel wash.
Yeah, and then I alternate with 100% cold-pressed coconut virgin olive oil, which rehydrates after the mud face mask. You do a really good Patrick Bateman, actually.
Yeah, I watched that thing many, many times at drama school.
It's a great movie.
In fact, my friend Zach, who I think you met when he came over to Toronto. I think I'm not sure if you met him. He's got a shaved head. But we used to call him Bateman because he had like this whole routine that he did. He got up every morning, did his press ups, his sit ups, had his whole skin routine, and all his clothes were like pristine in his wardrobe.
Really?
Yeah. So we called him. Everyone who went round there was like, "Bloody hell, who are you, Patrick Bateman?" And it just became a thing. So he.
Did you ever catch him killing small animals?
No.
Any squirrels or goldfish or anything? Or
no, but
prostitutes.
Not prostitutes, but he liked to have girls around. Let's put it that way.
Oh.
I won't say his second name.
Check out American Psycho, Bret Easton Ellis book. And in fact, because I used to listen to Bret Easton Ellis's podcast, he's proper clever clogs. He does a kind of a film critic bit, and then he he talks about all things movie. But he was saying that that's one of his least favorite film adaptations of his book work. Is American Psycho. It's one of his least favorite. He quite likes Rules of Attraction, I think, by Roger Avery.
Oh, Roger Avery, yeah.
Yeah, with Patrick Bateman figure, but he's in college, and James Van Der Beek played him.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good film. It's a good soundtrack. There's that Erasure song. We'll be together again. I've been waiting for a long time. We're gonna be together again, etc.
Oh, that's good.
Hey, I see a biopic.
Oh yeah, we have 1 minute and 15 remaining.
And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain, my friends. Which I'm certain. Here, listen, we're going to keep doing these weekly update things just to kind of chat, get a bit of a vibe of the podcast across when we're not talking to Clever Clogs guests. That's really the function of this, isn't it, Tom? Yeah,
and it's all about what you want to hear us talk about. Yeah, it's all about you guys.
We rambled profoundly again, but we will get round to more questions next time. Or will we? Tune in next week.
That's the beauty of it. So we've got 20 seconds left. So there we go. We will see you all again very, very soon on the Earth Locker.
Be nice to yourselves. You're not that bad, really.
Yeah. Be kind.